So this is the story of how I went from being 10K in debt to failing all my college classes to eventually building a six-figure business at the age of 21. And I'm making this video for my younger self, and number two, for the young people out there who are looking for a way out. Because if you come from a normal family, you will have been brought upon the traditional path of being successful, which is go to high school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, and then go get a good job and then retire. And I always knew to myself, I hate that idea of like the fact that that's just it. Like, really? And the first awakening point in my journey was around early 2023. I saw this bald kickboxer guy who said, escape the matrix and you can get rich by making money online. And you know what I'm talking about. And I started consuming that content and it fully indoctrinated my brain. But the one thing is that I believed it was possible to make money online. That's the first point, which I'll get into later. But anyways, this was around the time I was taking a midterm for med school and I fucking flopped. I failed so hard because I was like, yo, why should I study? I can just make money online. And I didn't actually fucking take any action to actually try making money online. I just like sort of sat there and consumed a bunch of information, not actually acting on it. So then the end of the semester comes around, exams come, I fail those too. So now during the summer, I'm in like this probation period and I'm like, I have to do these exams again. And I'm like, fuck no, bro. I'm fully clocked out. And I end up going on this gap year for health reasons, which is going to be a whole nother video. I'm not going to get into it today. But essentially, that was the birth of everything. I was like, oh, my entire identity used to be wrapped around being a medical student for about 3 years. It was my entire life for about 3 years. It was my identity. It was what I wanted to do. It was the only thing I could think about. But then it was shattered by this one thing, which spoke to me at a greater level. And I think in around September was when I truly felt a little bit low. Because for the first time in my life, I actually experienced failure. Because at the time I was super young. I have never really failed at anything because I was like okay at school. I worked decently hard, but I wasn't like tweaking out to like achieve what I achieved at the time to get into medical school in the first place. It was just experiencing that type of failure for the first time was such a huge wake-up call. And that's when I actually start looking into things a bit more. And I pick up this job at a care home in, wait, I actually can't say where it is, but I start picking up this job at this care home. I'm a catering assistant, and number two, I'm a janitor. And oh my God, when I tell you I sucked ass, but also the job did suck ass. I sucked ass at these jobs, and I was like, I think this job thing isn't for me. And granted, they're entry-level jobs, they're low-skilled labor, but at the same time, I just hated listening to other people who were telling me what to do. And granted, I do have humility to listen to people who are ahead of me, but I just didn't like that corporate style environment. But this was another L that I took upon myself, which was, first of all, failing. And then the second L was that with the little money I accumulated at that job for 3 months, I spent all of it on a car that I could not afford. And it was a fucking shitbox car, 2006 Ford Focus. It's a decision I still regret to this day. I actually have no idea why I bought it, by the way. It makes no sense, like, even today. But, hey, I guess that's what young, dumb kids do, is buy stupid things without any justification. So, I bought this car, and about 2 days later, because it's icy and stuff, I'm, like, driving to work, and I fucking crash. And, like, my heart starts fucking pounding, because I know that, like, I don't make that much money. And I was like, how am I gonna fix this, bro? Like, I crashed for the first time and I was like, dude, this is actually like such a rock bottom moment for me. Like, I've never actually taken so many L's in such a short period of time. And granted, they're not like that big of L's. I'm sure that people out there actually really struggle with their life, but it feels way bigger when you're in that moment. And I think I remember at the time I was like, fuck, bro. I was like, holy shit, how am I gonna tell this to my parents, bro? I'm actually cooked. And then the next day rolls around, and then the fucking car just breaks down. Like it just stops working, and then the clutch just wouldn't move. I couldn't move, and then like, oh my goodness, like that moment was like such a deflating moment. Like I'm someone who has quite a lot of positive spirit, but in that moment in time, I just felt so deflated. I was like, dude, like I don't know why, but I also had faith at the same time. I was like, I'm gonna fucking tell this story one day. And well, here we are. But it was such a fucking crazy moment because after that, after I got the car towed back, which I spent all my money on the tow guy to bring it back, I walk into my house, my parents' house, with this walk of shame. My footsteps never felt heavier. I felt like a fucking failure because at the time I technically was. I was on path to be like this med student, gonna be a doctor, whatever, whatever. And I failed. I worked a shitty job in a care home. I really, really underperformed. So the workers were making comments about me. I felt really shitty because, you know, I was like a young kid. And then I also crashed the car that I spent all my money on. And I'm now like at this rock bottom point where my bank account is literally less than zero. It's at minus 1,000. And I was stressed out of my fucking mind, bro. And this was really the birth of the business. I was like, how the fuck do I get out of this debt? How the fuck do I get out of this shitty situation? Because I also have student debt and I'm gonna get crushed. So this kind of leads on to the first act. This is the first real attempt. So in early 2024, going back to Andrew Tate. Oh fuck, I shouldn't have said his name, but going back to him, I went back to his link and I purchased his course. And there wasn't really much that I learned, but I did stumble upon my first business model, which was copywriting. Because there's like, it laid out all the business models and then I would like fill out this little quiz and then I ended up in copywriting. That there was no really like reason behind it. It was just the fact that I had no money and number two, I had time, so I chose that one. But with about 1 or 2 weeks later, I actually make my first dollar online. and it was like, it was fucking amazing. I make my first $100 online through Upwork, which is just a freelancing site if you don't know. And I just submitted a bunch of proposals, literally spamming everyone. And when I first received that like reply, I was like, oh my god, this is real. And I ended up writing like some shitty cold outreach sequences for the VEF group or whatever they're called. And that's how I made my first dollar online. And then I was like, wow, this is possible. If I can make $100 online, like without even knowing what I'm doing, dude, I can make 10,000, I can make 100,000, I can make 1,000,000. And I was like, dude, I have to keep going. And I'm just so glad I caught that win early because, dude, I didn't have another one for another while. So after this first win, I realized like, hey, I'm very, very underskilled. And I discovered a young man, bushy head of hair, just like me, online called Cardinal Mason. And he was claiming you can make 10K a month writing emails. And I was like, whoa, let's check out what this guy's doing. I want to make 10K a month writing emails. How the fuck do I do that? I go down the rabbit hole and I saw this case study video of all his students. And I was like, damn, how the fuck can I do that? They're around the same age as me, probably not smarter than me. And that tells me I can do it too. Why not me? And I joined this program for a 2K entrance fee, and I actually took out a loan. My mom actually loaned me the money. She took out a loan from the loan shark. It was at 370% interest rate, and I was really scared that I was gonna fail because I was literally like 1 month away from crumbling. So I started grinding my ass off, busting my ass to get my first client. And I actually ended up getting my first client in March, around middle of March. And the issue was the fact that she didn't really have a good product. She had like okay followers, but you know, I had a commission which was 15%, but 50% of zero is still zero. So I actually made a total of $42 with an entire month worth of work. And I was like, damn, that sucked. Let me find a new one. And I start blasting cold outreach again. And about 6 weeks later into my journey, not 6 weeks later, but 6 weeks into the journey in total, I met this guy called Jack. Shout out Jack if you're watching this. And I essentially sent him a sample, and he's like, yo, this is amazing, bro. Like, can we hop on a call? And I was like, hell no. Not hell no, but like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like pacing up and down my room, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually gonna do it. And when I tell you I went overboard on this sales call and I was tweaking the fuck out, I was actually like, bro, I was so OD'd. Like, I got on this call with this guy. I was like shaking, and I was like, and I was like going so overboard with the things that I was gonna do for him. I was saying like, oh yeah, bro, if we're gonna do direct response marketing, we're gonna get to like 40K a month, no problem. And I had like no fucking proof. I was like just talking out of my ass. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, so it's gonna be the price of one customer. Because I was too afraid to say like, oh, my price is 2K. I was like, one customer. I just looked at him like this. And he was like, okay. I was like, what? What? No way that fucking worked. Like, this dude that I just met like last week hopped on the phone with me for fucking 40 minutes and somehow forked over 2.3K a month to a random kid that just popped up in his DM. How does that happen? And I was like, what the fuck happened, bro? Like, how the fuck did that happen? And I put the phone down. I start running around my house, and I call my mom. I'm like, oh my god, mom, I'm gonna be rich. Oh my god, I make my first 2K online. And like, ugh, dude, I was actually so stupid. But anyways, I actually had no skills, and because of me having no skills, I lost that client the very next month. And granted, he did say he wanted to write his own emails, but I still lost him. But this kind of leads into the next phase, which is what I would like to call the hamster wheel phase. So I was like making anywhere from like $0 to 1.5K a month. So I never actually really made money in 2024. I made like 2.3K in April, and then I made 1K in November, and then I made nothing in between that. So like I'd either make like a couple $100s here and there, nothing really significant to write home about. But then the next year rolls around, 2025 comes around, and I'm grinding outreach. Bear in mind, I've actually been grinding outreach since like September, October time, every day. I would never miss a day. And that's the main thing, is that I was just fucking consistent. Even if I had no results, I would just keep fucking going and going and going. And I was really consistent with that. I think that's the one thing I did right. And in January comes around, I land a client for about 1.2K. Next client was in February, landed for about 1K. That one fell through though eventually at around September. I had to refund them the money. They're just way too slow. And I go back to 0. And I was like, dude, I'm actually in the trenches, bro. Like, this thing is like so inconsistent. I'm like, how the fuck do people make $50,000, $100,000 a month running an agency? Because I quite frankly felt like I was useless, because I had no skills, which was the main issue. And now fast forwarding a little bit more, this is what I would like to call me actually catching a little bit of wind. So in about May to August, I was around 3K. So in May, I hit my first 3.3K month. So basically I got a new client for about 2,500, and then my previous client from January had another payment for me, so I hit around 3.3K. I was like, dude, I'm fucking lit. I'm fucking balling. And then the next month comes around, I'm around 4.7K. And then the next month I'm at 5. And I think the next month I hit 5 again. And then hit 7. But the issue with this phase of the journey is that I was running off retainers that were just like small, low ticket retainers, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. And I was just stacking them. And I eventually got up to around 4 or 5 clients, making around 5-ish K a month. And dude, that was a stressful fucking 5K. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I felt like I was 1 month away from the business just fucking burning, because I'm just one DM away from being like, hey, I feel like we should go a different direction. I'm not very interested. because I only controlled a small aspect of their business that actually, quite frankly, could have been replaceable by like AI or whatever. Obviously, now things are a lot different, and like obviously you need to be a skilled marketer to do skilled marketing material, and AI just whatever. But at the time, I felt fucking useless, and that was where I sort of thought to myself, okay, I gotta move from being just this copywriter guy that writes emails, scripts, SMS, whatever, to becoming more of a full stack marketing agency owner. And I guess this leads into Act 4, which is the inflection point. So, in around August, one client, one opportunity changed everything for me. I actually start first talking to him in August, but we don't actually get our feet off the ground until late September, and we launch our first product in October. So this is another important lesson with follow-ups. I actually landed this guy off following up with him at least 20 times. And it was worth it. It was fucking worth it. But essentially, I took that same lesson of, okay, how do I become irreplaceable is to do everything for this guy. And I did everything. We end up working together. We launch our first product on October 5th, and we generate 150K in the first 30 days of working together. I did everything. I was his funnel builder, his appointment setter, his closer, his tech backend, his assistant, his content helper, his community moderator, his actual marketer, everything. When I tell you I did everything, I fucking did everything. And I identified the opportunity, and I just went all in. I was like, okay, this guy isn't doing the conventional real estate development type of stuff. That's the niche he's in. And I was like, okay, let's fucking go all in, and I'm going to maximize this opportunity. No more of this optimizing for the most amount of upside for the least amount of work. I'm coming for every fucking dollar, and that's what I did. And that's when I realized really that one moment can really change your life. And maybe you can say I got lucky, but in reality, I actually earned that luck, because luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. I've been in the game for a year and a half, and I was trudging every single day without stop, without fail, and I was already in a position to catch the opportunity. And because I was in the game, I was able to identify the opportunity, and that's how I got in. I'm not special, I'm not incredibly smart, and I weaseled my way in. And this is how I went from struggling between 3 to 5K a month to multi 5 figures in late 2025. I essentially built a real skill set. I became an actual asset. And before I was working with him, he was making 15 to 25K a month. And now, very first month, 150. And I think that's just a very good lesson to stay in the game long enough so you can catch your first win. What I actually did for him was like building out the entire back end system. So there would be a front and a back end to the business. I just fucking optimized the back end like crazy. And now we're moving into the current reality of the business. So what it actually feels like, I would say it feels surreal, but also it feels like nothing. My agency now has accelerated to around 20 to 30K a month in profit. That first month I worked with him, I made 16.5K in take home profit and around 17 or 18K in revenue. But I manage a small team. One of them is my direct employee for the agency, and two of them are employees for my clients. So I manage a small team of 3 people. I talk to them on a daily basis. I run the operations. I make sure the back end's smooth, and I become this marketing agency. This, or you can call it info agency, because I work with info products, or growth operator. And honestly, at this level, it doesn't really feel like anything. Like, yes, I've actually been able to open up a lot of different avenues within my financial life, and I can do a lot of things that I once couldn't do. But as I ascended in these levels and have been able to travel the world a little bit, meet new people, and people just knowing who you are, I realize I'm actually just level 0.25. I don't want you guys in this video who are watching me to think I thought I made it. That was a mouthful, but by no means have I actually made it. I started meeting 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs who are making 200K a month, a million a month, and I was like, damn, bro, I ain't shit. And I guess that leads me to how I got here within this time frame. So I wanted to pay tribute to my late mentor, Ben Bader. In September 13th, I purchased his program, and the very next month was the month I hit 16.5K in take-home profit. He laid out the entire path for me, the entire blueprint for me to go from where I was to where I wanted to go. And I really wish he was here to see me make this video, but I'm just very grateful to have been in his life. But at the same time, it was such a there's multiple wake up calls in this video, but this was the main one because I realized how fragile human life can be. And he was only 25, and it was honestly such a heartbreaking moment for me. But I know I'm doing what he would have wanted me to do. And if there's anything I could leave you with in this video, it would be something he would tell me. And it is, if not now, when?